There's nothing like cracking that cellophane and pulling that record out. It just smells great.
Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Non-stop hardcore energy.
I love the show, guys. You're awesome.
Unlike any other.
With your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather.
Man, this stuff rocks.
I'm Haakon Sjogren.
I'm Corich.
And I'm Paul Anop, and we're in NECROPANTHER, and you're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
The views and opinions of the guests do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of BODS Mayhem Hour, its staff, affiliates, or sponsors. Parental discretion is advised. Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I'm your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather. And as always, I bring you guys and gals awesome interviews. Today, it's an honor and a huge privilege to welcome the band NECROPANTHER. The Colorado-based death thrash outfit NECROPANTHER has released their long-awaited fourth full-length album entitled Betrayal. NECROPANTHER will play a special record release show on April 8th in Denver, joining metal legends Vader Crisium, Decrepit Birth, with additional live performances to be announced in the upcoming weeks to come. So also check out their singles that they have out right now, One and Only and Into Danger. And guys, would you care to introduce yourselves before we get the podcast under the way?
Sure. My name is Corich. I am the bassist and co-vocalist of NECROPANTHER.
I'm Paul Anop, guitarist and vocalist.
I'm Haakon Sjogren, and I play drums.
First off, welcome to the podcast, guys. I'm glad to have Paul and all of you guys back on here. Paul's a returning guest. Like I said, I interviewed him a couple of years ago, and glad to have y'all back on here. So Betrayal intertwines with, I thought this was cool, intertwines with the 1979 movie The Warriors, with the Greek story of Anabasis by Xenophon. But where did this come from? How did this even get to remotely intertwine with the movie The Warriors?
So we wanted to continue our project of having kind of sci-fi dystopian thematicism in our full-length albums. So for this last go-around, we did what we always do, where we compile a list of movies, stories, books, anything that we think is interesting, and then we'll put it to the band to vote. The Warriors was a fun one. It was kind of a late entry to our potential topics list, and everyone seemed keen on it. And then once we started diving into it, we wanted to kind of source the source a little bit. So in addition to doing the Warriors movie, we also sourced from the Warriors book. We also sourced from the Anabasis from Xenophon, and we also sourced from like Moby Dick and Paradise Lost, which were also influences on the book of the Warriors as well.
For you, Paul, this is the first album where you have had a guitar solo, man. Did this challenge you and brought you out your box as a musician? Did this increase your musicality, I should say?
Oh, yeah, of course. I've played some leads in the past, never a traditional full-on guitar solo. Through writing this album and through working together as a band through the songs, we got through two specific parts of the tunes where it was like, we kind of need two guitar solos, or we did a key change in the middle of a solo, so it could technically be two different solos. And I don't know if it was someone's idea or if it was the whole band's idea, or we just kind of all went in for it, but we just all said, yeah, maybe there's room for Paul to do a solo. And so I said, okay, sure, I'll try it. Kind of not knowing exactly what I was getting into at first, but
it was about a year before we started really writing the music for this album, where we covered Emerald by Thin Lizzy, and just the end of that song, you have the two guitar solos, and the first time I remember Marcus and I just kind of looking at each other once Paul started solo. I was like, what are we seeing right now? And right after that, we're both thinking like, this is a new avenue we need to explore.
Yes, thank you for chiming in, Haakon. That's a good point. We did decide to cover Thin Lizzy's song, Emerald, and it called for dueling guitar solos, and I was like, well, you know, it's classical guitar solos. It's Thin Lizzy. It'll be pretty easy, and it was actually pretty challenging. But I learned those solos, and we played it live, and it went well. And I think, yes, that was the starting point of, okay, Paul can play some solos. He's pretty good. Let's see what he can do. And so, learning from Joe as our main lead guitarist, he taught me a lot about finding my voice as a lead guitarist. So that was really nice to have someone that's like super, super professional and super good at playing solos and leads to kind of guide me. But it really challenged me, but it also, I think it made me definitely a better musician and a better guitarist as well.
I want to jump back here for just a second, because I know you guys said you had multiple ideals in the can that you guys look through to continue on from album to album that you talk about. What's been the most heated one that you guys had that you guys wanted to use, say like, I don't know, Halloween? I'm just gonna throw that out there, but it just didn't. But still, one of the guys like, we gotta have it, we gotta do it. What's been the most heated one, if anything, possibly?
I mean, those discussions don't, you know, tend to get too heated. It's fairly democratic, and it's fairly, you know, we're gentlemen. We're all adults here.
Yeah, I feel like one that had a lot of potential is Blade Runner. I feel like Blade Runner has been so close to being it, but it just like never got there.
Blade Runner's up there. For this past album, we also had Alien that was leading the way for a while. I've also been really partial. Like, I wanted to do the movie The Thing for a long time, and
Yes.
have been somewhat stymied in that regard, but it's for the best.
Oh man, that's actually cool. So I'm thinking Blade's going to be out there soon. It's on the tip of y'all's. I know it's going to be there soon. So don't give up. This is your all's fourth full-length album entitled Betrayal. It's out right now, but how good does it feel to have this album in the NECROPANTHER music library? How good does it feel to get this out and be done with it and move on?
I know Marcus. I'll let Marcus take over, because yeah, he as soon as we were done with the tracking, he's like, when can we get this out? And then as soon as we're done with the mixing, he's like, when can we get this out? And so yeah, we've been really chomping at the bits to get this thing out. We've been working on it for so long, and it's kind of weird since we've been working on it for like 2 years, and now that it's kind of, the recording process is over. Now we're, you know, playing out live, playing shows, kind of promoting it. It's kind of weird that we're not, you know, just blasting on these songs and trying to work them out. It's like, no, now we're just practicing them and trying to make them as good as we can live, which is cool.
I noticed one thing recently where I was listening to the album, and now that it's out and we've been working on it for so long, I started listening to it from a listener's perspective instead of from a musicianship perspective. And it's kind of, I've listened to the album 1,000 times already just from being a part in writing stuff, but I feel like I'm getting a new experience now that it's out.
It's absolutely, at least from my perspective, amazing, and almost, I don't know, man. It's kind of like a life within a life to a certain extent, which is something Joe and I had talked about, is that it does, like, the end of the recording and like having the album out now and out on its own, it does actually feel like it was its own little entity. It was its own little life that we all, you know, created and developed and grew and shaped and molded. And like Paul said, you know, spent years of our lives on, and, you know, we traveled to the ends of the earth to make this thing as good as it could be. So it's incredibly rewarding to have it out. It's also massive to me that we as a group really congealed and worked cohesively and did things that we've never done before to make this the absolute fucking best that it can be. And I think that comes through in the music.
But when you go back and listen to it as listeners, do you find those little peaks and valleys like, oh, I forgot this was in here now, how good does that sound? Or is there something in there that kind of like piques your interest and go, huh, We need to do that more often.
I mean, I'm an artist. As you can see, there's some paintings on my wall and stuff. So as an artist, things are never perfect. You know, it's never going to be 100% finished for me personally. There's always things that can be improved. There's always things that could have been done differently, but you have to accept that it's just part of your art and you have to move on and start new art. Otherwise you'll be stuck in one place forever. So yes, I think things can be improved, and I think we learned a lot, and I think next time it'll be even better.
I think for me, I'm not where Haakon's at yet. I have not yet heard this album just as a listener. Throughout the course of creating this album, I loved and hated every single note on this album multiple times, and I think I'm still kind of coming out of that mode.
I finished recording drums first week of August, so that's kind of when I started tapping out a little.
Yeah, Haakon was done with his tracking in August, and we worked on guitars and vocals until November. So yeah, we had Haakon was chilling for a few months while we were still working.
But did the pandemic allow you guys to be more creative working on this album or coming up with an idea for this album? Did that allow you to do this?
It gave me time to do a lot more demos than I have on previous records, because I was at home a lot. I couldn't go out. There was nothing to do. Everything was locked down. So what do? I make music. So I think that was one thing that kind of helped, you know, like I didn't like being stuck inside all the time and not being able to jam with my guys every week. But it did help me produce a lot of demos for the album.
I would dare posit that, you know, we did In Depths We Sleep during the pandemic, and we did that, you know, following guidelines and trying to be remote and trying to be safe. I think that maybe going through that experience, it let us come into this project with a little bit of a renewed energy and a renewed ambition, where, you know, after being unable, like Paul said, to just get together as friends and as bandmates and actually make music, I think that when we set out on this, you know, on this project and we were discussing goals and what we wanted to do, I think we were pretty eager to get at it, and I think we really wanted to come out swinging and wanted to make a big statement.
That was going to be my next question. Did you guys feel like coming out of COVID, this album had to make a statement? It had to come out swinging for you guys?
Yeah. I mean, I'd still have some of that pent up kind of energy and pent up like angst from that whole time that I'm enjoying releasing finally.
And you got Haakon up there like, I'm done. You guys go. It's all good.
No, I mean, it was more like I finished the drums. Everyone else knew what they had to do to get to the finish line, and I feel like whenever I spoke, it better be of value, so I wouldn't get in the way of their progress and their efficiency. So it was kind of relieving that I was done, but it was also I just wanted to be careful to not get in their way.
Was it crucial, guys, to have the correct technical production on this album for Betrayal?
Of course, yes. I mean, we always go with different mixers for our albums because we like to have a variety of sounds. We don't want to just be stuck in one sonic sound and like have one mixer sound be our thing. We're not really into that. We like to explore different things and have each album have its own uniqueness. So I think every time we start to prepare for an album, we definitely think about who we want to work with, how we can accomplish that, who will give us the best product, and how we can make each album better. That's definitely some of the first things that we think about when we start working on an album.
And similar to what we were talking about earlier, part of our process is a big part of our process is being democratic and having everyone's opinion heard. So David Castillo, the gentleman that we mixed this last album with, was again voted to the top of the list and had availability, and it was important to us to kind of have a back and forth between albums, doing the Doom City domestically and doing Betrayal back in Sweden. And I think we got really lucky with Castillo. He was a pleasure to work with. He was very intuitive. He was really into the music and into the project. And I mean, I think that the master that we got with him just has a really good bite, has really good aggression to match the music to it. And I think it was a really good fit for this musical project.
What led the track One and Only to be that first song released off this album? What was it about that said that's got to be the first one going out?
It's a Haakon song.
Yeah, Haakon wrote that song, and for me at least, it's like it's just a fast thrash song with a really cool guitar solo, really cool bass part too with the bass drop. And I think it just catches you and it kind of gets you ready for the rest of the album, just to be fast and brutal and in your face. So, I mean, I think it's a great song. It's definitely one of my favorites on the album, and it's definitely one of my favorites to play live.
Was there a track that you were working on for this album that totally ended up sounding different than what it was intended to? Was there one that kept changing or no?
I mean, I think that, you know, from the initial demos to the finished songs, most of them stayed fairly similar. I would point to the song Into Danger as being one that we worked on a lot over others. I think we had something like 30 different versions of that song.
Jeez.
And while the you know, the meat and potatoes stayed the same, we worked up all the melodies, the harmonies, the solos, the structure. We really spent a lot of time and energy on making that one the best that it could be. So yes, it stayed the same, but also just plugged away at some of these tunes.
To me, the intro for Revenant sounded really different once you guys were done working on the backwards guitars. Like, I was used to hearing the demo version, and not being a guitarist, I'm not quite sure what the difference was, but I remember you guys spending a lot of time on that intro, making sure you got those backwards guitars right. And then once we had a finished product, that surprised me a lot, how it was different.
I know these are your babies. I understand that. But any tracks standing out to each of you more than any right now, possibly? Are there any that are sticking out maybe?
To me, Betrayal does. Like, it's different enough. It's the longest song on the record, but half of that song is completely different than everything else, where it's just long open chords, a lot of kick drums, halftime on the snare, a lot of reverb on that snare. Like, just with those chords, it just sounds, to me, it sounds really epic. Like, that is a part of the album where I can just put on headphones, crank it up, close my eyes, and just lay back and just listen to. And yeah, that is probably my favorite song.
I think for me, I think I've mentioned it in another interview, but I think for me, Into Danger still sticks out. It was initially my favorite, and my favorite has kind of switched over time, but I still keep coming back to that one because, for one, that was the first song that I put a solo down on, and it was the first time I was happy with a solo that I had written. And just the energy of that song is really good. I really enjoy that one.
Yeah, it's tough to say. It kind of changes. I agree with both these dudes. Like, both those songs are really good. It's tough to say, man. Out to the Sand is a cool one since all four of us contributed riffs to that song, and I think that's our first tune where it's actually an entire song composed of each person's musical ideas or riff ideas, I should say. I guess just for today's answer, let's just say Breathe Evil. That's just a really straightforward, easy, heavy fucking tune. So we'll go with that one.
Was the track listing placement important for this album, guys?
Yes, it was. I spent a lot of time with Joe and with the band. Like, we spent a lot of time trying to figure out how this should proceed, how the energy should be. And it was a pretty big undertaking, just whittling down which songs we thought would make the album, which riffs we thought would make the album, and then getting those into the correct order. Well, you know, I've thought that was very important.
I'm very happy that you think that, because I really enjoy not taking part of that.
See, I told you.
I think I'm in between the two. Yeah, just hit the drums. No, I'm in between the two.
He did the drums. He's like, see, I'm done, guys. I'm done. Cut out.
I think I was like, I knew One and Only should be the first song, and I knew Betrayal should be the last song. And then other than that, I was kind of like, they're all great. They should just go in there somewhere, somehow. And I think Joe and Marcus really nailed out the track listing.
All right. Speaking of the tracks that didn't make this album, are there any that didn't make it that we're going to see on an upcoming album, or just a standoff one, or maybe on an EP possibly, or no?
I don't even remember how many demos of mine we used, but I think I had 11 or 12 demos for this album. We probably used 4 or 5 of them. All the demos that we decided to work on, we developed fully and we used on this album. I think there might have been one tune that Marcus and Haakon were working on a little bit that didn't make it because we didn't make it in time. But yeah, there's definitely stuff that we have in our back pocket that's gonna turn into new music.
I think that's right. I also think that we were really fortunate on this album that we just had a dearth of material to choose from, so we got to be really selective with the music that we thought could go. Like Paul said, he had a baker's dozen or something demos. I think Joe had something like 15, 16 demos, something like that. And Haakon and I had, music as well. So we were really lucky in that regard that we just had a huge bulk that we could just really, trim all the fat and just make it, all killer, no filler, which is what we were going for on this one. I think that, yeah, potentially some of those tracks that got left on the cutting room floor could be used for further projects down the road. But I also think that we discovered that, the more we write and the more we have to say, then the easier our jobs are and the better the end result is. So I think you'll also hear maybe some new stuff with some old stuff that we'll be putting out.
What was the oldest demo or anything that was really old that actually made it onto this album that somebody might not even realize how old that track was? Which Marcus?
So I think Joe had a demo riff for our second full-length album, Eyes of Blue Light. And we developed that riff into Out to the Sand. I don't know how many years that would be, but I think that one might be the longest one, unless one of Joe's demos was from older than that. Wow. So yeah, there was a demo. There was one track.
If you can count, I think Marcus and I played, I think back in 2006 or 2007.
There you go.
10. I thought we had a video on YouTube where we played it on from 2007. Oh, okay.
Different tune.
All right. But that one is about 13 years old.
Wow. See, I love hearing stories like that because everybody's like, they hear the music that's out, that's fresh release. They're like, oh, it's brand new. They just come out with this. No, it's not. Some it's not. Some of these songs
Well, that song was written in a way, but Marcus and I had listened to that song so many times. So what was cool was Marcus just like was okay just kind of giving the song to the band and letting the band do whatever they wanted to do to put it through that NECROPANTHER process to turn it into a NECROPANTHER song. And I remember Paul sent back a version where the structure was quite different. And the first time I heard it, I was like, whoa, this, like, I'm rehearing this song in a completely new way, even though I've heard the song 1,000 times already. And I was just like so into that new structure. And luckily Marcus was too. And like the new version of If You Can Count has a different structure than the demo version did. Went through the NECROPANTHER process.
What's the growth musically, guys, that you've seen from yourselves working on this album coming out of COVID, possibly, if anything?
I mean, I would say that's almost tough to quantify. Between Paul taking on, solos for the first time, or at least for the first recorded time, myself taking on vocals on this album. I think we've challenged ourselves across the board and benefited musically from it and as musicians from it. Part of what spurs that on is the fact that we're so eager to support each other's musical ideas and support each other's, kind of creative output, that when Haakon brings us a riff or Paul brings us a riff or something, it's like something that we're unfamiliar with. And so it forces us to kind of push our boundaries and challenge ourselves to learn a new style, to learn a new technique, or just to, kind of up our game a little bit. That I think that all of us, at least I could speak for my bandmates, I don't know, I feel like we've all grown as musicians and just kind of gotten better through the album or through the process of recording this album.
Marcus, I got to know this though. Taking on some vocals. Did you like this? Are we going to see any more down the road from you with this? Or are you just like, nah, I'm done with this?
I mean, I hope so. I had a lot of fun doing it. I loved working with Paul on getting these vocals going. He's been kind of, coaching me throughout the years on how to sound more brutal and be a better vocalist. So this was, a goal of mine was to actually track vocals on a record. So, I mean, hell yeah, man, I'd be way down to do this again in the future and just keep getting better at it.
You guys have released EPs before, but this was a full-length release. Why go the full-length release this time? Did it just make more sense with these songs that you had to put out a full-length instead of an EP?
Well, what we do between every release is we let one bandmate control the release of a single or an EP. So whatever that bandmate wants to release, they kind of take it upon themselves to pick the topic, write all the songs, and kind of be that producer of that project. So whenever we decide to do a full-length album, we all come together. We all kind of have equal say in a very democratic way. And with the EPs, it's kind of one person getting to explore themselves musically more than they would just through an album.
Max Sherman did the artwork for the album. Did he get exactly what you guys were looking for?
Every time.
Yeah, he's awesome. You can literally give him the base idea of what you want, and he will deliver something that's totally surpasses your expectations every time. It's really cool to work with him.
I know you guys had a lot of music growing up. I know you guys still have a lot of music to this day that you listen to. But do you still have that go-to album or just a song that you find yourselves going back to and listening to from time to time that you just cannot kick out? You've got to go back and listen to it eventually. And there could be a ton of stuff that you guys do.
Mine is Svartesveden och Lindamyrets Trolle by Windear. I always go back to that song. That song is just close to my heart.
Fuck, man. Yeah, that's I feel like there's way too much to mention to answer that question properly. I have found myself recently really enjoying revisiting some of my early punk influences, like going back through old Minor Threat and Bad Brains, Gorilla Biscuits.
Oh,
that kind of fare. Like that was really fun for me as a youth, and kind of finding that same feeling from those songs recently. That's been really enjoyable.
some Madball throw in there, you know?
Yeah, Madball's fine. I don't know. I tend to go a little more
Gotta go
tending
Misfits.
towards Misfits is all day. I mean, all day. But like
See?
some of that old proto crossover kind of hardcore stuff. I mean, that's doesn't get much better than that.
I hope one day to get the tattoo of the Misfits skull on me somewhere. But I gotta grow some kahunas.
I got one.
Oh. Did you get the skull? Just the face?
Yeah, not just the face. I didn't quite go full Cliff, but I got the cross hands and the whole production. Yeah.
Theme face and the skull hands go across. Those are classics, man. And if I could take tattoos, I would do everything just Misfits. I don't know. That's me.
Best fiends forever.
That's right, man. All right, Paul. What about you?
The first band that made me want to be in a rock and roll band was Guns N' Roses, and when I saw, Welcome to the Jungle on MTV when I was like 8 years old, I was like, I want to do that. Those guys look cool. And so there's definitely tracks on that album that I have to skip. I'm not going to listen to Sweet Child of Mine. I'm not going to listen to Paradise City. I'm sorry. But I will listen to the rest of those tracks until the end of my life.
Rocket Queen is my sleeper song off that album.
I love that. It's a great song.
I mean, it's just like, why in the hell did this not make a video? But I'm glad it didn't, because it's a sleeper. And that could compete with any song on that album easily.
I agree. There's more too. I could do Master of Puppets, because that was my first real metal band that I was into, and that was my first real metal album, and I will always listen to Master of Puppets.
Yes, sir. The album saved my life. Just about everybody comes on this podcast, Master of Puppets is named. From front to end of that album is just a masterpiece, in my opinion.
Yes.
I mean, you got Orion, which is an instrumental on there, which is phenomenal.
We covered Orion a few times, yeah.
I'll have to take a listen to that.
Not live. I think only in practice, but we have tried to tackle that beast.
Now you're teasing them.
Yeah.
That's what we're here to do, baby.
I did like the cover that they did on S&M2 at the orchestra with the electric bass. If you've not got to see that yet, oh my God. It's absolutely will blow your mind to listen to. It's actually Anesthesia. They did Anesthesia.
Yeah, I haven't seen S&M2. I remember listening to it with some coworkers one day, but I mean, Robert Trujillo is money in the bank on bass. So watching him do the live renditions of Cliff songs, Anesthesia and Orion and Call of Cthulhu, I mean, he's got the chops.
Yeah, they had some guy from the orchestra play Anesthesia. And I mean, he knocked it out of the ballpark. I mean,
damn.
I was like, I'm telling you, it put chills on me. Listen to it. It was good. Just go back and listen to it. Last question. This is the $1 million question. I don't care what anybody says, or any podcaster says. This is the $1 million question right here. If you guys could be a member of an iconic band and play one of their legendary shows, which band would it be and what show possibly?
Any Queen show.
That's a good choice.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. That's tough. Think about it for a second.
You know what? Give me any Iron Maiden gig in South America. Sign me up for that.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna have to agree with Haakon, and I'm gonna have to go with Queen and the Live Aid. the Live Aid show, because that was just their iconic. It was just amazing. Like everyone there was there for the same reason. I think that would have to be my pick.
That has been the most popular pick that's been said on here, honestly.
Nice. Wow.
And
it says a lot about that show.
So crazy. But hey, that's cool. I'm glad to see a little, tradition going on here with Queen. Go ahead.
I just want to speculate real quick, and I want to ask Paul and Haakon if they agree with me. Do you guys think that Joe's pick would be that Guns N' Roses show that he keeps pointing to about the Slash solo, so that he could actually play the studio guitarist solo?
Yes, we'll speak for Joe. His would be Guns N' Roses at the Roxy,
That's
right when they released Appetite for Destruction.
Was that
they did the live airing for MTV
on MTV? That's what I was getting ready to say. Was that the one for MTV? That was a badass show. I don't care. Guns N' Roses.
Now Joe's probably gonna be like, no, what are you guys talking about? You guys don't even know me.
Oh man. All right, guys. How can folks stay in touch with NECROPANTHER and pick up this new release entitled Betrayal? How can they do that, guys?
Yeah, so we released the album on March 5th on our Bandcamp. It's available on all the platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, Pandora, all that stuff. But, Bandcamp is the place to be. You can keep up with everything that we're doing via Bandcamp, via Twitter, via Instagram, via Facebook, all the socials there.
Before I let you guys go, would you care to do a promo for my show?
Yeah, of course.
Sure.
I'm Haakon Sjogren.
I'm Marcus Corich.
And I'm Paul Anop, and we're in NECROPANTHER, and you're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Everybody stick around. We got some great interviews coming up, and you only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour. Please check out our Facebook page. It has our podcast link and our YouTube link that you definitely want to go out and subscribe to. And thank you guys for putting me over the 1,000 mark. I totally appreciate that. That's a lot of work that's going into this podcast for sure. It's very hard to do and very hard to accomplish. So I'm tickled pink. Thank you. Please go check out NECROPANTHER. They have released their 4th full-length album entitled Betrayal. Definitely give this band a fair shot. You will like their music. So, guys, thank you all so much for giving me the opportunity to interview you guys again.
Thank you, bud. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
You're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.